The shuttle moved through the quiet black of space, its silver hull catching the glow of distant stars. Mira sat near the window, her eyes fixed on the giant ring-shaped station growing larger with each passing minute. Haven Point, that was the name everyone used for it, and in the training records she had studied, it was described as a hub where humans and aliens worked side by side. To Mira, it looked more like a shining city in the middle of nowhere. Her heart beat fast. This was her first assignment away from Earth. She had finished her studies as a medical assistant, and when the chance came to work on the station, she took it without thinking twice. She told herself it was an adventure. She told her parents she was ready. But now, as the shuttle slowed and the docking lights of the station blinked in a circle, she felt a tight knot in her chest when the airlock opened and she stepped into the wide arrival hall. The sound of many languages filled her ears. Human voices mixed with alien speech that hummed, clicked, or rang like bells. Mira held her small bag close and walked carefully across the polished floor. Tall windows showed the curve of the planet below, glowing blue and white. A man in a gray uniform scanned her ID and nodded. Medical wing, right? Level 6, follow the guide lights. Mira thanked him and moved on, following the glowing arrows on the wall. The medical wing was on the upper ring of the station, close to the large garden dome that was kept for rest and recovery. She passed by groups of workers, some carrying tools, some in bright suits marked with their alien crests. She tried not to stare, but her eyes kept catching strange faces and shapes. A tall figure with skin like polished stone walked past her. Another, smaller, had bright feathers that shifted colors with every step. Mira had read about them, but seeing them here, breathing the same air as her, was something different. At last she reached the doors of the medical wing. The panel slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the space smelled clean and sharp. With rows of beds lined neatly against the walls, screens glowed with patient data, and machines hummed quietly in the corners. A human doctor named Ryung greeted her. His voice was brisk but not unkind. "You must be Mira. Welcome to Haven Point. We are short on hands, so you came at the right time. You will start by assisting the nurses, taking reports, and learning the routines. Stay alert, and you will do fine." Mira nodded, trying to hide her nerves. She put her bag in a small locker and tied her hair back. The other nurses moved quickly, checking charts and adjusting machines. Among them, one figure caught her eye. The alien nurse stood apart from the others, her movements precise and smooth. Her skin was pale with a faint silver shine, and her eyes were large and calm, reflecting the light in a strange way. Her uniform was the same as the others, but she wore it with an air of quiet distance. Mira noticed that none of the staff spoke to her much. They gave her space as if she wanted it that way. When Mira walked closer, she saw the name tag, Lyra. "Hello," Mira said softly. Lyra turned her head. For a moment, her face was unreadable, her expression flat like a mask. Her voice, when she answered, was low and even. "Welcome." That was all. She turned back to her work, scanning a monitor with steady hands. Mira hesitated, then moved away to help another nurse. But the image of Lyra stayed in her mind. There was something in her eyes, something that looked like quiet sadness. The hours passed quickly. Mira followed instructions, carried supplies, checked patient vitals, and handed tools to the doctors. She moved carefully, listening and learning. The medical wing was always busy. Cargo crews came in with burns or cuts. Engineers complained of back pain. A few aliens needed help adjusting to the oxygen balance. Mira tried her best to keep up. During a short break, she found herself standing near Lyra again. The alien nurse was organizing vials in a drawer, her movements precise and almost controlled. Mira wanted to say something more, something simple, just to show friendliness. She remembered what the trainers had told her. Working on Haven Point meant building trust not only with humans, but with every species. So she spoke again. "I am Mira. It is my first day here." Lyra paused, then gave a small nod. "I know. Your name was on the new list." Mira smiled, trying not to feel discouraged. "You have been here long?" Lyra's hand slowed for a moment. She seemed to think before answering. Long enough. There was silence. Mira looked at her carefully, and then, with gentle boldness, said, "I'm glad you are here." For the briefest moment, Lyra looked directly at her. Her lips moved into the faintest curve. A smile so small it could almost be missed. But Mira saw it. It was not a smile of habit. It was not a polite gesture. It was something else, like the light of a star hidden behind clouds. Then, as quickly as it came, the smile was gone. Mira felt warmth in her chest. She did not know why it mattered so much, but it did. She turned back to her tasks, but the memory of that smile stayed with her. Later that day, a cargo worker was rushed in with a deep cut on his arm. Blood rushed fast, and the man cried out. The doctors shouted orders, and the staff hurried. Mira stepped aside to let them work, but her eyes followed Lyra. The alien nurse moved quickly, her hands sure and steady. She pressed the wound, sealed it with a medical spray, and guided the doctor to close it with a thread of light from the stitching tool. Within minutes, the bleeding stopped, the workers' breathing calmed, everyone sighed in relief, but Mira noticed something others did not. When the patient was safe, Lyra stepped back, her shoulders tense, her fingers trembling slightly. She hit it well, but Mira caught it. She saw the shadow of something deeper, something carried inside Dot as the day ended and the lights dimmed in the medical wing. Mira walked to the window that showed the stars. She thought of home, of her family far away. She thought of the many faces she had seen today, human and alien, and she thought of Lyra, who smiled once, just once. Like it was the first time in years. Mira did not know the story behind that smile, but she wanted to. She felt that there was a secret hidden in it, a secret waiting to be told. And though it was only her first day at Haven Point, she already knew that this was the beginning of something more. The next morning on Haven Point began the same way as most days. The station's artificial lights brightened slowly to match the time of dawn on Earth. In the medical wing, screens lit up, machines hummed, and footsteps echoed as staff began their shifts. Mira arrived early, nervous but eager. She wanted to show she was ready to work hard. She put on her uniform, tied her hair back, and checked the duty board. Her name was listed beside routine patient checks and supply runs. Nothing too heavy, but enough to keep her busy. As she read, she noticed Lyra already moving through the room. The alien nurse seemed tireless, her steps measured, her focus sharp. She spoke little, only when needed, and even then her voice carried no rise or fall, only calm control. Mira watched her for a moment. She remembered the faint smile from yesterday, the one that had lasted only seconds but had stayed with her all night. It made her curious. Who was Lyra beyond the uniform and the cold mask she showed to others? When her tasks were done, Mira walked toward the storage area. To her quiet surprise, Lyra was there, arranging medical kits on the shelves. Mira hesitated, then spoke. "Good morning." Lyra gave a short nod. "Morning." Mira wanted to say something more, but words felt heavy. At last, she asked, "Do you ever miss your home world?" Lyra's hands froze for a second before continuing to place the kits. Her voice was steady. "Everyone misses something." It was not a full answer, but it was not a rejection either. Mira took courage from that. "On Earth, I miss the gardens. My parents grow flowers in front of our house. The air is always full of their smell. Here the air feels clean, but empty." Lyra paused again, then glanced at Mira with her large, silver eyes. "Gardens? We had them too. Bright fields of light trees. The colors were strong, even under weak suns." For a moment, her tone softened, almost like a whisper of memory. Mira smiled gently. "It sounds beautiful." Lyra said nothing more, but she did not move away. That was enough for Mira. Later in the day, the calm was broken. A loud alarm rang, and two crew members rushed in, supporting a heavy cargo worker between them. His leg was trapped earlier by a falling crate, and the wound looked severe. Blood darkened his uniform, and he groaned in pain. The medical team moved quickly. Doctors shouted orders. Nurses grabbed tools. Mira froze for a second but then forced herself to help, handing out bandages and clearing space. Lyra stepped forward with speed. Her movements were fast but controlled. She guided the others, pressing the wound, sealing torn veins, and instructing Mira to bring the stabilizer spray. Mira obeyed at once, her hands shaking but steady enough to deliver the tool in minutes. The bleeding was stopped, and the man's breathing calmed. He was placed on a bed, safe for now. The others praised the team effort, but Mira kept her eyes on Lyra. The alien nurse stood tall, her face calm, but Mira noticed her fingers trembling again. It was so slight that no one else saw. She looked like someone holding back a storm inside. When the room cleared, Mira found herself walking toward her without thinking. "You were amazing," she said softly. Lyra turned her head slightly. "It was necessary, yes, but still, you saved him. Your hands moved like you knew exactly what to do." Mira lowered her voice, but I also saw they were shaking when it was over. Lyra's eyes flicked to her, sharp and cold at first. For a moment Mira thought she had gone too far. Then, slowly, Lyra looked away and said nothing. The silence was heavy. Mira stayed quiet too, not wanting to push further. She only added, "Everyone has something inside they carry. I think you are stronger than most." She turned and walked back to her duties, letting the words hang in the air. The hours moved on. Mira continued with her tasks, but she felt a strange pull every time Lyra walked near. The alien nurse was like a locked door, but Mira had seen a crack in it, just enough to know there was something behind it. During a short evening break, Mira sat near the viewing window. The stars stretched out endlessly, cold and bright. She sipped water and thought of Earth. She missed the sound of rain against the roof, the smell of soil, the voices of her parents. Space was grand, but it was also lonely. A soft step sounded nearby. Mira turned and saw Lyra standing at the edge of the room. She was holding a small data pad, but her eyes were on the stars, not the screen. For a long moment, she stood still, as if caught in memory. Mira spoke carefully. "When I look at the stars, I think of home. What do you think of?" Lyra did not answer at once. Her gaze stayed on the black sky. At last, she said, "I think of silence, silence after storms, silence after loss." Her voice was quiet, but Mira felt the weight of each word. Mira's throat tightened, but she kept her tone gentle. "Maybe silence is also a way to heal." Lyra turned her head slightly, her silver eyes meeting Mira's. This time, the silence between them was not cold. It was soft, like the pause before a new step. Then, faintly, Lyra's lips curved, a small smile, fragile but real. Not forced, not hollow. A smile that seemed to surprise even her. Mira's heart lifted. She answered with her own smile, warm and simple. The break ended, and they returned to duty. But something had changed. It was small, unseen by others, but Mira knew it. She had taken the first step into Lyra's world. When her shift ended and she lay in her small quarters, Mira thought again of that smile. It was rare, it was fleeting, but it was there, and she told herself that she would not stop until she understood the story behind it. On Haven Point, where humans and aliens lived side by side but often apart, Mira had found her first true connection. It was not easy, and it was not complete, but it was real. And sometimes, she thought as she drifted to sleep, a single real smile meant more than 100 empty words. The days on Haven Point passed with rhythm, each one full of small duties and unexpected challenges. Mira grew more confident in her role, learning how to handle patient charts, monitor machines, and bring tools to doctors before they even asked. Yet what made each day most meaningful to her was the quiet presence of Lyra. The alien nurse remained distant with most staff. She spoke only when needed and never joined the small groups that laughed during breaks. But with Mira, something different began to grow. It was small at first, a nod, a brief exchange, or a soft word. Mira noticed that whenever she tried to speak kindly, Lyra did not walk away. She stayed. And that, Mira thought, was progress. One afternoon, during a slow hour in the medical wing, Mira found herself beside Lyra again. They were restocking supplies. Mira decided to try. "Do you ever dream?" Mira asked, setting bottles neatly in a row. Lyra tilted her head. "Dreams, yes. I dream of Earth sometimes. My home. I see the garden. And my parents sitting under the tree. I wake up and feel both happy and sad. Do you dream of your home world?" Lyra placed a small vial on the shelf with careful precision. For a moment, her hand stopped moving. Then she said, "Yes, I dream of fields of light trees glowing under dim suns. I dream of voices that are no longer there. The dreams hurt, but they also remind me I was not always alone." Mira listened in silence. The honesty in those words was rare, and she felt honored to hear them. She gave a small smile. "Thank you for telling me." Lyra glanced at her. Her silver eyes softened slightly, and Mira thought she saw another flicker of that hidden smile, the one that always seemed to escape before it fully formed. Later that week, Mira sat with her during a break. The medical wing was quieter, most patients resting. They sat near the viewing window, where the stars burned like endless fireflies. Mira spoke first. "Why did you choose to work in medicine?" Lyra's gaze stayed on the stars. Her voice was calm but carried weight. "Because I saw too much loss. I wanted to fight it. To heal instead of watch." Mira nodded slowly. "That is why I came to on Earth when I was young. I saw a friend hurt badly. The doctors saved him. From then, I wanted to be like them." Lyra turned her head slightly, watching Mira with quiet interest. "You left much behind to come here." "Yes, my parents, my home. But I wanted to learn. And I wanted to be useful." Mira gave a small laugh. "I thought space would feel big and exciting every day. But mostly it feels heavy. You know what I mean." For the first time, Lyra gave a real smile, small but lasting longer than before. "Yes, space is not only stars. It is silence and weight." Mira's heart lifted. At that smile, she felt they were walking a path together, step by step. The bond between them deepened further during another emergency. A technician was brought in after a system failure released a burst of gas. In one of the lower decks, his lungs were damaged, and his breathing grew weaker by the minute. Doctors worked quickly, but the case was complex. Mira handed tools as ordered, but her eyes never left Lyra. The alien nurse took the lead in stabilizing the patient's breathing. Her movements were precise, but Mira saw her jaw tighten. Her eyes filled with something fierce. When the patient's breathing steadied at last, Lyra stepped back. Her shoulders tensed. Mira approached softly, speaking low so only Lyra could hear. "You care so deeply. I can see it." Lyra's hand shook once more, then stilled. "Caring brings pain, but it also brings hope," Mira said gently. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, it felt like a bridge between two worlds, fragile but real. That night, Mira returned to her small quarters but found sleep hard to catch. She thought of Lyra's words, of the weight she carried. What had she seen? What loss haunted her still? Mira wanted to know, but she also wanted to respect her silence. The following day, as they worked side by side, Mira decided to share more of her own story. "When I left Earth, my mother gave me a small flower pressed in a book. She said whenever I felt lonely, I should remember the garden. Sometimes I'd take it out, just to hold it." Lyra looked at her with a strange expression, as if unsure whether to believe someone would carry something so simple. "Does it help?" she asked. "Yes," Mira said with quiet certainty, "because it reminds me that no matter how far I go, part of home comes with me." Lyra was silent for a long time. At last, she whispered, "I carried nothing from mine. I left with empty hands." Mira's throat tightened, but she kept her voice calm. "Then maybe memories are the things you carry instead. They're heavy, but they also keep what is gone alive." Lyra's lips curved faintly, almost like a smile, but not quite. "You speak with warmth. It is rare here." Mira gave a small laugh, maybe because everyone is too busy running around with charts. For the first time, Lyra gave a soft sound that almost resembled laughter. It was short, quiet, but it filled Mira with joy. She had never imagined hearing Lyra laugh, even in such a small way. From then on, their breaks together became a habit. They shared small stories, brief memories, and pieces of themselves. Lyra never revealed everything, but each word she shared felt like a gift. Mira responded with her own stories, offering warmth and listening without judgment. As the days turned into weeks, others began to notice. Some staff whispered that the quiet alien nurse seemed lighter, less distant. No one knew why, but Mira did. It was not because she had solved Lyra's pain. It was because she had chosen to stand beside her in it. One evening, when their shift ended, Mira and Lyra walked through the garden dome. The dome was filled with green plants, carefully kept alive under artificial light. It was not Earth's garden, nor Lyra's glowing fields, but it was something living. Mira inhaled deeply. The air smells better here, almost like Earth. Lyra touched the leaf of a small tree gently, her silver fingers brushing against the green. It is not my home, but it reminds me that life can grow anywhere, even in silence. Mira watched her closely. Then maybe we can grow too, even far from where we started. Lyra looked at her, and for the first time, her smile was not fleeting. It stayed, soft but real. Reaching her eyes, Mira's heart warmed. She thought again of the first day, when Lyra's smile had appeared only for a second. Now it lingered. It was a sign of trust, of a bond forming between them. And though the secret of Lyra's past was still hidden, Mira knew that one day it would come. Until then, she would keep walking beside her, step by step, smile by smile. The station's medical wing never truly slept. Even during the quietest hours, screens glowed, machines hummed, and the air carried the faint smell of medicine. Mira had grown used to the rhythm of it. Some days were calm, others filled with urgent cases, but nothing prepared her for the outbreak. It began with one engineer, brought in with a fever and short breath. At first, the doctors thought it was a common reaction to recycled air. But within a day, 5 more arrived with the same signs. By the end of the week, the beds filled with patients struggling to breathe, their skin pale and damp. Mira worked without rest, moving from bed to bed, recording vitals, carrying supplies, and trying to calm the sick. Fear spread through the staff as quickly as the illness. No one knew what it was or how to stop it. Even the most experienced doctors shook their heads. During one shift, Mira noticed something strange. Lyra moved differently. She still worked with her usual control, but her steps carried a sharp focus, almost as if she had seen this before. Her eyes followed each patient carefully, and her hands reached for the right tools even before instructions were given. After treating a patient together, Mira whispered, "You know this sickness?" Lyra did not answer. She only pressed a monitor button and turned away. But Mira had seen the flicker in her eyes. It was not surprise. It was recognition. Hours later, when the shift ended and the wing grew quieter, Mira found Lyra alone in the supply room. She stood by the shelves, staring at a set of vials as if lost in memory. Mira stepped closer. "Please tell me, you know this illness, don't you?" Lyra's shoulders tensed. For a long time, she did not move. Then she spoke, her voice low. "Yes." Mira's heart jumped. "Where did you see it?" Lyra turned. Her silver eyes filled with a heavy weight. "On my world. Long ago. This sickness spread through my colony. It began with fevers, then weak lungs, then silence. I watched it take them one by one. Families, children, elders. I tried to help, but nothing I did was enough. The cure came too late." Her words were steady, but Mira could hear the pain inside them. "You have the knowledge," Mira said, her voice firm but gentle. "You know more than anyone here. You can stop this from happening again." Lyra shook her head. "Knowledge is not enough. I failed once. I failed them all. Their faces still live in my dreams." Mira's chest tightened. She wanted to reach out, but she kept her hands at her side. "Lyra, you did not fail. You fought against something greater than you, and you still stand here. That means you are stronger than you believe." Lyra looked away, her expression torn. "If I share what I know and it fails again, more will die. Their blood will be on my hands, or," Mira said softly, "if you share, lives will be saved." You are not alone this time. You have us. You have me." The silence stretched between them. Then Lyra closed her eyes, as if wrestling with the storm inside her. Finally, she spoke. "The sickness weakens the lungs. It feeds on air itself. But there's a way to slow it, then break it. A mixture of two compounds. I still remember the formula. It was hidden in our colony's records. Few believed in it until it was too late." Mira's breath caught. "Then we must try. Show me." Lyra's hands trembled as she pulled a data pad from the shelf and began writing. Strange symbols and numbers filled the screen. Mira did not understand all of it, but she saw the precision in Lyra's work. It was not guesswork. It was memory, carved deep into her mind. When they finished, Mira said, "We will tell the doctors." But Lyra shook her head. "Not yet. Many will not trust me. They see me as quiet, as distant. They will say I bring fear, not hope." Mira placed a hand over her chest. "Then let me stand with you. If they doubt, I will speak. They trust me, even if I am new. But they must hear your knowledge." For the first time, Lyra looked at Mira with open eyes. Not guarded, not cold. There was fear, but also something like relief. "Why do you believe in me so much?" Lyra whispered. Mira smiled softly. "Because I see more than silence in you. I see someone who cares. Someone who carries pain but still chooses to heal. And I believe in that." Lyra's lips curved faintly, a fragile smile that vanished almost as soon as it appeared. But Mira caught it, and that was enough. The next day, the outbreak grew worse. More beds filled. Panic spread among the staff. The doctors held long meetings, searching for answers. At last, Mira stood beside Lyra in the center of the room. Her voice was steady. "Lyra knows this illness. She has seen it before. She has a formula that can help." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Lyra. Some faces carried doubt, others frustration. A few shook their heads. One doctor asked sharply, "And why was this not mentioned sooner?" Lyra's shoulders stiffened, but she answered with calm, "Because I fear my past. But fear will not save lives now. This mixture may." She handed the data pad to the commander. The symbols and notes glowed on the screen. The commander studied them, then looked at Mira, who gave a firm nod. "We will test it," the commander said. At once, relief and tension mixed in Mira's chest. It was only a first step, but it was real. Lyra had opened her secret to the light. That night, as they walked back to their quarters, Mira spoke quietly. "You did the right thing. You gave them hope." Lyra's voice was faint. "I only pray it will not bring more loss." Mira touched her arm gently. "Whatever comes, we will face it together." Lyra turned to her, and for a moment, her face softened completely. She gave Mira a true smile, one that lasted longer than any before. It was not just a smile of thanks. It was a smile of trust. And Mira knew, deep inside, that the secret Lyra carried was not just about the sickness. It was also about the weight of her heart and the courage it took to share it. The medical wing was tense the next morning. The sickness had spread to nearly every level of Haven Point. Patients filled the beds, their coughing echoing in the halls, their weak voices begging for relief. Staff moved quickly, but fear weighed. On every step, in the center of it all stood Mira and Lyra. The formula was ready, written in careful detail on the data pad. The commander had approved a trial, but many of the doctors remained doubtful. They whispered that it was dangerous, that trusting one alien nurse with an untested cure was a risk the station could not afford. Mira stayed close to Lyra, ready to speak if needed. She could feel the doubt in the room pressing against them, but she also saw the strength in Lyra's eyes. Even if her hands trembled slightly, she stood tall. The first patient chosen for the test was the cargo worker who had been injured weeks ago. His wound had healed, but now he lay weak from the illness, his breathing shallow, his skin pale. The doctors agreed he would not last long without intervention. Mira and Lyra prepared the mixture. Two compounds, blended with precise measures, created a glowing liquid that shimmered faintly under the light. Lyra's fingers moved with skill, mixing with calm focus. Mira handed her the tools, steadying each one so there was no mistake. When the vial was ready, the doctors gathered around. The commander gave a sharp nod. Proceed. Lyra looked down at the patient, then glanced at Mira. For a second, doubt flashed in her silver eyes. Mira whispered softly, "You can do this. I believe in you." With slow care, Lyra injected the mixture into the patient's arm. The room held its breath. Machines beeped softly, measuring his vitals. At first, nothing changed. His breathing remained shallow, his skin still pale. A doctor muttered under his breath. Then, slowly, the beeping steadied. The patient's chest began to rise more evenly. His color returned, faint at first, then stronger. His eyes opened slightly, and he whispered a weak but clear word of thanks. Gasps spread through the room. The doctors leaned in, checking the monitors. One by one, their expressions shifted from doubt to surprise. "It is working," one said. The commander nodded firmly. "Begin wider preparation. We will treat more." Relief washed over Mira. She turned to Lyra, her face bright with joy. "You did it?" But Lyra did not celebrate. Her expression was calm, almost too calm. "It is only the first step. We must see if it lasts." Still, Mira saw the truth in her eyes. A weight had lifted. For the first time since she had spoken of her past, she seemed lighter. The next hours were a blur of work. More vials were prepared. More patients received the cure. Each time, the results showed improvement. Weak lungs grew stronger. Color returned to pale faces, and hope spread through the wing like light breaking through clouds. Mira stayed close to Lyra, helping with every step. She noticed that some staff who once avoided Lyra now began to speak to her, asking for guidance. Trusting her skill, Lyra answered with steady words, never raising her voice, never seeking praise. During a short break, Mira and Lyra sat together in the storage room, drinking water. Mira could not hide her smile. "You saved them. You saved us all." Lyra shook her head softly. "Not yet. We must continue. The sickness may return stronger. But you gave us hope." Mira said firmly, "That is something no one else could have done." Lyra looked at her, and for the first time, her smile came without hesitation. It was small but real, reaching her eyes fully. Perhaps hope is enough to begin. Their moment of quiet was broken when alarms sounded. A new patient was rushed in. More serious than the rest, it was a young technician, barely older than Mira. With lungs so weak that his breaths came only in gasps, the cure needed to be given at once, but his body was fragile. If the dose was wrong, it could break him. The doctors hesitated, arguing about the risks. Some wanted to wait, to test more. Others said there was no time. The commander looked at Lyra. "What do you say?" Lyra's face was unreadable. She stood in silence for a long moment, then said, "We must try. If we wait, he will not live the hour." The commander nodded, then proceed. The room grew tense as Lyra prepared the vial. Mira watched her hands, steady but tight. She could feel the weight of the choice pressing down. This was not only about saving one patient. It was about proving the cure worked even in the most fragile cases. Lyra injected the dose. The boy's body shuddered. His monitors spiked, alarms ringing. Doctors shouted, rushing to his side. Mira felt her heart stop. But then, slowly, the alarms quieted. The boy's breathing evened, his chest rising more smoothly. His eyes fluttered open. Relief spread across the room. The doctors cheered softly. Patting each other's backs, Mira looked at Lyra, her chest swelling with pride, but she noticed something others missed. Tears filled Lyra's silver eyes. Though they did not fall, Mira stepped closer and whispered, "What is it?" Lyra's voice was low. "On my world, I could not save them. But here, I can. It feels like their voices are with me again." Mira touched her arm gently. "They would be proud of you for the rest of the day." The cure was given across the medical wing. Patients who had been close to death now sat up, drinking water, speaking again. Hope filled the station, spreading even to the halls beyond. The outbreak that once seemed unstoppable was now being turned back. That night, as Mira and Lyra walked through the quiet garden dome, the stars above the glass shone bright. Mira breathed deeply. Smelling the faint scent of green leaves, "You were brave," Mira said softly. "You faced your fear and gave us all a chance." Lyra looked at her with a gentle smile. "I was not brave alone. You stood with me. Without you, I might have remained silent." Mira felt warmth rise in her chest. "Then we were brave together." They stood in silence for a while, watching the stars. For Mira, the station no longer felt as heavy. For Lyra, the silence of her past no longer felt endless, and though the work was not finished, though more challenges lay ahead, they both knew something had changed. The sickness had been fought, but more than that, trust had been born. In the quiet glow of the dome, Lyra smiled again, not the brief, fleeting smile of before, but a steady one, soft and full of life. Mira smiled back, knowing this was only the beginning of something greater. The days following the outbreak were quieter, but the station's medical wing was far from idle. Patients who had been critically ill were now recovering, and the atmosphere changed from fear to cautious optimism. The once tense halls now carried a hum of careful movement and quiet conversations. Mira arrived early as usual. She passed through the garden dome, inhaling the faint scent of green leaves. Life seemed to grow stronger here, even in the artificial light. She smiled softly, remembering how Lyra had first shared her secret, how courage had turned fear into hope. Inside the medical wing, the mood was lighter. Staff worked together with renewed energy. Patients spoke again, their laughter soft but full of life. The machines still hummed, but their sounds no longer carried the same weight of dread. Mira found Lyra near the supply shelves, organizing vials and preparing for another day of patient care. The alien nurse moved with her usual precision, but there was something different in her posture. She seemed lighter, freer. Mira stepped closer. "Good morning," Mira said softly. Lyra looked up, her silver eyes reflecting the soft lights above. "Good morning," she replied, her voice calm but carrying a new warmth. Mira noticed the faint smile that now seemed steady, not fleeting. It made her heart lift. "The patients are improving. You saved them all." Lyra shook her head. "I only shared what I knew. You stayed with me. That made it possible." Mira laughed quietly. "Then we saved them together." The first patient who had received the cure was walking through the hall with the help of a nurse. Mira watched him smile at her, a healthy color returning to his cheeks. Lyra approached quietly, observing him without interrupting. The man turned toward Lyra, his eyes wide with recognition. You saved me. I owe you my life." Lyra nodded, her smile small but real. The recognition from someone she had helped brought a sense of relief. She rarely allowed herself to feel. Mira could see it, and she felt pride and warmth for her friend. As the day continued, more staff approached Lyra, asking questions, seeking advice, or simply expressing gratitude. Even those who had doubted her before now listened respectfully. It was clear that the trust she had earned was spreading. During a short break, Mira and Lyra walked together to the viewing window. Stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass, bright and constant. Mira felt a quiet peace in the moment. "You have changed the station," Mira said softly. "People see hope now." Lyra's silver eyes focused on the stars. "I only did what I could. I fear my past too much, but you reminded me that knowledge and courage are stronger together." Mira smiled. "You taught me too. You showed me that even after pain, someone can still heal and help others. I will never forget that." Lyra's lips curved into a full smile, steady and warm. Mira knew that the secret of her past, the weight she carried for so long, was still part of her, but it no longer controlled her. The station had seen her strength, and now she could stand openly without fear. By evening, the commander called a short meeting. Staff gathered in the main hall, and the mood was celebratory but cautious. The outbreak had been controlled, and the cure was proving effective across the wing. Patients were healing, and those who had been too weak to move were now walking, speaking, and regaining strength. The commander addressed the gathered staff. "This station has faced a serious challenge, and it was met with skill and courage. Special recognition must go to Nurse Lyra, whose knowledge and precision saved lives. Without her guidance, the outcome could have been very different. Murmur of approval ran through the room. Mira's heart lifted. She saw the respect and gratitude in the faces of her colleagues. Some had doubted Lyra. Some had feared the unknown. But now all could see her skill and her heart. Lyra stepped forward, her head held high but her movements calm. She did not seek praise, yet she accepted it with dignity. Mira walked beside her, silently supporting her friend. The commander continued, "Let this be a lesson for all. Courage is not only in action, but also in trust and knowledge. We honor those who show both." The applause that followed was heartfelt. Lyra's silver eyes glimmered as she scanned the room, and Mira caught the warmth of her smile. It was not just a smile of relief, but a smile of trust, of understanding, and of connection. After the meeting, Mira and Lyra returned to the medical wing. Patients were resting, machines quieted, and the staff moved with calm efficiency. Mira placed a hand on Lyra's arm. "You did it," Mira said. Lyra shook her head softly. "We did it, with patience, care, and trust. I could not have done it alone." Mira smiled. "You have changed everything, the station, the staff, and even me." Lyra's lips curved once more. Then it was worth it. They walked through the hall together, the weight of past fear now replaced by quiet pride. Mira knew that the secret Lyra had carried for so long would always be part of her story. But now it was a story of strength, courage, and hope. That night, Mira returned to her quarters and looked out at the stars. She thought of Earth, of home, and of all the lives they had touched. Lyra's presence beside her, the trust and bond they had built, made her feel that even in the vast emptiness of space, connection and care could shine brighter than the stars. Lyra, too, returned to her small quarters, but she did not feel the weight of her past as she once had. The knowledge she had feared, the memories she had hidden, were no longer chains. They were tools for healing, and with Mira by her side, she felt the strength to continue helping others. And though Haven Point was far from home, both of them knew that hope, courage, and trust had made it a place of life and light. The station was quiet that morning. Patients were recovering, the hallways were calm, and for the first time in weeks, Mira felt a deep sense of peace. Haven Point was no longer weighed down by fear. The sickness had been fought, the cure was working, and trust had been restored. Mira walked through the garden dome, the faint scent of green leaves filling her senses. The stars outside the glass shone brighter than ever. It was a reminder that even in the vast emptiness of space, life and hope could grow. She found Lyra near a small cluster of plants, her silver eyes reflecting the light. The alien nurse was arranging leaves, moving carefully but with ease. She looked at Mira, and for the first time, the smile she gave was fully her own, steady and warm. "You look peaceful," Mira said softly. Walking closer, Lyra nodded. "It is different when there is no fear, when knowledge is used to heal rather than to worry." Mira smiled back. "You taught me that. You showed me that even after pain, someone can still help others." Lyra looked down at the plants. "I fear my past too much. I thought it would always define me. But now, I see it can guide me instead." Mira reached out and gently touched Lyra's arm. "And you are not alone. We face it together. You have me, and the station has you." Lyra's eyes softened. She did not speak at first. Then, she said quietly, "I never thought I would feel this free, this light, after all I have carried." Mira nodded. "It comes when we trust someone enough to share our weight. And you did, Lyra. You trusted me, and it made a difference." The day passed with calm efficiency. Patients moved freely, walking with assistance where needed. Staff worked with care, their faces lighter and voices warmer. The station had healed, not only in body but in spirit. Later, Mira and Lyra were called to the main hall. The commander had arranged a small ceremony, not for formal awards, but for recognition and thanks. Patients who had recovered came forward, some supported by friends or staff, all carrying gratitude in their eyes. One by one, they spoke. "Thank you for saving me. You gave me my life back. Because of you, I can see my family again." Each word weighed heavily on Lyra, and for the first time, She allowed herself to feel the full depth of her impact. Mira watched her closely, noticing tears forming in her silver eyes, though they did not fall. The commander stepped forward. Haven Point has faced a great challenge, and it was met with courage, skill, and care. Among us stands someone whose knowledge, patience, and bravery saved countless lives. Nurse Lyra, your dedication and heart have made a difference that will never be forgotten. Lyra bowed her head slightly, accepting the recognition. Mira stood beside her, silent support giving her strength. A recovered patient approached and handed her a small flower from the garden dome. "For you," he said simply, "a reminder that life grows even in the hardest places." Lyra looked at the flower, then back at Mira. She smiled, a full and unguarded smile that lit her face. It was the same smile Mira had seen flicker on the first day, now stronger and steady. "You see," Mira whispered, "even small things can remind us of hope." Lyra's voice was soft. "And even small acts of trust can heal more than medicine." Alone, the crowd slowly dispersed, leaving Mira and Lyra alone in the hall. Mira looked around at the quiet, calm space. "It feels like the station itself is breathing again, like it can move forward now." Lyra nodded. "Yes, life continues, stronger than before. And we will continue to care, to heal, to protect." Mira glanced at her. "And we will do it together. Whatever comes next, we will face it side by side." Lyra's smile deepened. She stepped closer and said quietly, "I'm glad you stayed with me, Mira. You gave me courage to face what I feared. And you gave me courage to believe in hope." "Lyra," Mira replied. For a long moment, they stood together, the quiet of the station surrounding them. The stars outside glimmered as if sharing in their peace. The bond they had built was stronger than words, stronger than fear, stronger than distance from home. Finally, they walked through the garden dome side by side. Each step was light, not burdened by the past, filled instead with possibility. The plants seemed greener, the air seemed softer, and the small light from the stars felt warmer. Lyra stopped near a small tree. She touched a leaf gently, her silver fingers brushing against it. "This reminds me of home," she said. "Not the one I lost, but the one we make." Mira smiled. "Then we will make it bright, together." Lyra looked at her, and the smile that appeared was no longer fragile. It was real, steady, and full of life. Mira mirrored it, feeling the warmth of connection. In that moment, words were not necessary. The trust, the courage, and the bond they shared spoke louder than any conversation. As night fell, the stars outside Haven Point glimmered endlessly. Mira returned to her quarters and looked at them, thinking of Earth, of gardens, of home. She felt a quiet pride in what they had done, but even more, she felt joy for Lyra. Lyra, too, returned to her small quarters. She placed the flower from the patient beside her bed. She looked at it, then at her own hands. They had healed lives, saved the station, and carried hope for the first time in many years. She felt the burden of the past lighten. She smiled once more. This smile was hers, fully and openly, without fear or hesitation. It was a smile of courage, of trust, and of life. Mira knew that this was only the beginning. The station would face more challenges, and sickness might return. But they were ready. Together, they could face anything. And for the first time in years, Lyra's heart felt free. The stars outside Haven Point seemed to shine brighter that night, reflecting the hope and life within the station. And somewhere inside, Mira knew that a single smile, fully shared, could change the course of many lives. In the quiet of space, amidst the endless stars, Lyra's smile lingered. It was no longer fleeting. It was real, and it carried the promise of hope, trust, and the courage to heal for herself and for all who needed her.